Trump is engaging in a whole-of-government retribution campaign, basically using every lever of the federal government to target anyone in this country who he thinks is insufficiently loyal to him. That has been his goal ever since his first term in office, when he tried to do the same thing over and over, only to be stopped by some of the people around him. So Trump knew the only way he could carry out that campaign of retribution in his second term was by making sure that this time there was no one around to stand in his way. As Trump told Jonathan Karl for his new book, Retribution, quote, "The difference between now and before is I know everybody now. And when I first came, I knew nobody. We had a lot of great people, but I didn't know people. Had to rely on recommendations. Now I know people, so it's good." It's a lot of meaning in that. We're going to talk about it. There are reasons that there is typically a lengthy vetting process for every person nominated to be in a president's cabinet or, frankly, to serve in senior White House roles. The first is, of course, to make sure that there are no surprises during the confirmation process. But the more important process is determining whether they are up for doing the job. Trump ignored both of those criteria in favor of his own preferred test. Who was most likely to be loyal to him? Who would be so indebted to him for nominating them that they would carry out virtually any order he gave? And that led to Trump assembling the most incompetent cabinet of sycophants in modern American history. Jonathan Karl's new book offers us a new window into how the heck this clown car of people ended up in Trump's cabinet. I mean, take, for instance, Trump's appointment of Kristi Noem to be the head of Homeland Security. Karl writes, quote, "Noem had not been on the transition team's list of possible candidates and had not gone through vetting for the job. When a surprise Trump advisor asked the president-elect why he had decided to nominate Noem to be Secretary of Homeland Security, he had a simple answer. 'I did it for Corey,' he said. 'It's the only thing Corey asked me for.'" Now, the Corey in that anecdote is almost certainly Corey Lewandowski, Trump's loyal first campaign manager, who is now best known, let's say, for his close relationship with Kristi Noem. I mean, the decision to nominate a completely unqualified loyalist like Noem was such a surprise that it even caught Trump's other former campaign manager off guard. Here's another part from Jonathan Karl's book. Quote, "We still got the global war on terror," an exasperated Steve Bannon told me 2 days after Trump made the announcement. "She runs the whole thing? She runs the effing Secret Service? It's all of it. It's the global war on terror. It's all that. What are you talking about? She's never been in law enforcement." I mean, all fact-checked true by Steve Bannon there. And Noem was not the only appointment that caught people in Trump's orbit by surprise. I mean, here's another excerpt from Karl's book about the efforts to staff Trump's cabinet during the transition. Quote, "A cabinet finalist had been sitting in the Mar-a-Lago living room downstairs near a Fox News weekend anchor, whom he assumed was in town to conduct a television interview with Trump. Like the rest of the world, he was stunned to hear later that night that the president-elect would be nominating that Fox News weekend anchor, Pete Hegseth, to serve as Secretary of Defense." It's the same story with Trump's transportation secretary, Sean Duffy. Here's what the book also says, quote, "Duffy had a colorful biography. In addition to his experience as a Fox News host, he had been on reality TV star on MTV's Real World, served 4 terms in the House of Representatives, won 3 lumberjack world championships, and worked as a local prosecutor in Wisconsin and a lobbyist in Washington. But he had no relevant experience for the job." When Trump asked a friend of Duffy's if he knew anything about transportation, the friend answered, "Of course he does. He has 9 kids." Moving a family that large around, the friend joke, requires at least some transportation expertise. There we go, everyone. In other words, everyone knew at the time that Trump's cabinet picks were not qualified for the jobs they had been given because they weren't chosen for their qualifications. They were chosen because they would be loyal foot soldiers in Trump's retribution campaign. Trump didn't want cabinet secretaries. He wanted people who would always defer to him. Trump knew he could rely on Pete Hegseth to defend sending troops into Democratic-led cities. He knew he could rely on Kristi Noem to defend deploying ICE to those same cities and withholding disaster aid from blue states. He knew he could rely on Sean Duffy to defend canceling important infrastructure projects in Democratic congressional districts. And he knew he could rely on all of them to go out on television and defend any myriad of the crazy decisions he planned to make. And now Trump is using that unqualified cabinet to carry out the campaign of vengeance that has motivated him since day one. Joining me now is Jonathan Karl. He's the chief Washington correspondent for ABC News and author of the new book, Retribution, which is out now. I read quite a few of the different excerpts in there. We have a couple of more, but I just wanted to start with some of the news today, because a lot of it does feel like it's very much in this theme of retribution. I mean, something kind of happens every day that feels relevant to your book title, actually. Today, and I just walked through this a little bit, we learned that 2 DOJ prosecutors were put on leave essentially for just accurately describing, or that's what the reporting suggests, January 6th in a sentencing memo, and that the memo was then reissued tonight, just in the last hour or two, and it took out reference to January 6th, took out reference to Trump posting Barack Obama's home address. One of the things I've been curious about, and you've been covering Trump so long, you've written multiple books about him, is if you're in the White House right now, all these loyalists, these sycophants, are you waiting for his direction? Is this coming from his direction, or is this, they know what he wants, and so they're implementing it?
You have a push and pull of both of that. I mean, you clearly have people at the Justice Department, at the White House, who are pushing this, even in directions that Trump is not directing. You know, not directly.
They're thinking he would like this.
Yes,
this is in line.
And then you have a situation like with the prosecution of Comey and Tish James, where he went beyond where his loyalists at the Department of Justice wanted to go. He went beyond even where Pam Bondi wanted to go. So you have a little bit of each. But look, this is entirely different. When he came in the first time around, I'm glad you pointed out that quote where he said, "I didn't know anybody." He felt he needed people that had credentials. 4-star Marine general to be the Secretary of Health of Homeland Security, John Kelly. 4-star retired Marine general to be at the Pentagon. Rex Tillerson, the former CEO of ExxonMobil, to run the State Department. All of those people, in one way or the other, Trump felt betrayed him or didn't do what he wanted to be done. So those people are gone. Loyalty is the number 1, 2, and 3 criteria
of what he's looking for. I was, I oversaw the cabinet war room, the confirmations team for Biden and Harris. It looks very quaint now. I mean, we were up till 1 and 2 in the morning going through hundreds of pages of vetting documents. There were hours of meetings and discussions. They all had to go through the ringer. And in your reporting, in your book, you talk about how the vetting process seemed to involve a couple of bullets on a screen and some photos to see if they sort of met the character description Trump was looking for. Was it more than that?
I mean, they didn't have access to FBI background checks until late into December.
By their choosing.
By their own choosing, absolutely. So they did have a team of lawyers that they hired to go through and do background checks, and some pretty thorough background checks. The problem was that in many cases, the people that they were checking out were not the ones that Trump was choosing. So I really tried to burrow in. I spent a lot of time. I was covering it in real time, but then I went back to try to talk to everybody I possibly could about what was really happening at Mar-a-Lago and how this process was unfolding. So I talked to people that were candidates, for cabinet offices, to people that were involved in the vetting, to people that were close to Trump. And it is a wild scene. On the outside, it seemed much less drama than 2016. They were putting out nominees on a really regular basis. But inside, it was really Trump kind of going by his gut.
We just read the excerpt from the book where Steve Bannon is reacting to Christine. No, I mean, there are a few people who are more loyal than Steve Bannon. And he's like, wait a second, it's global war on terror. Like, this person is not qualified.
The wild thing about that is Bannon doesn't blame Trump at all. He blames Corey. How could Corey do that? Why did Corey foist this on Trump? He doesn't blame. But of course, I mean, Trump's the one that did it.
Let me ask you about Steve Bannon. He was one of the people you spoke with a lot for this book. It seems like he's been in and out of the orbit. He's clearly back in the orbit now. I mean, one of the stories you tell in this book is about his role leading up to that meeting that was crazy that we all watched, of President Zelensky being dressed down in the Oval Office. Talk about that a little bit more and kind of what we don't understand maybe, and what you've learned more about Bannon's role and things that maybe we didn't all suspect.
Yeah, so I went through and did a minute-by-minute accounting of this, but in short, fascinating scene. Days before Zelensky comes to town, Trump is meeting with the French Prime Minister, French President Macron, and he's got his national security team together after that meeting to talk about Zelensky coming later in the week. And they want him to sign this deal for Ukraine's minerals, as a way to like pay back all the
They
US
previewed it. It was like all over the press.
Oh, yeah. It was all ready to be signed, but Trump didn't like it. So he asks his national security advisor to get Bannon on the phone. And Mike Waltz calls Bannon. Bannon's in the middle of his show. You know, he's on television, podcast 4 hours a day. He's on air, so he puts it to voicemail. And then Trump says, no, and he calls him on his phone. So Trump calls him. Bannon has to take the call. And for the next half hour, Bannon, who Trump knew didn't like this securities deal at all, didn't want anything to do with supporting Ukraine in any way, is now lecturing the entire national security team, referring to Zelensky as that punk, saying you cannot trust that punk. And if you have a deal for his natural resources, they're going to want security guarantees, and you can't do that. And it led to, Bannon wasn't the sole driving force there, but he certainly set the tone for the meeting that happened in the Oval Office.
Which I still remember Marco Rubio looking like he was going to sink into the couch. I don't know what was going through his mind.